For years, I waited to talk about this series. It has been around for almost 37 years at this point. It has only been translated into English one time prior and was quickly ended, with the only way to get these being over $300 to $50 just ridiculously overpriced manga magazine and editions. And they are a rarity. To say I was excited when I heard the news of this game translated into English was putting it lightly. This is hands down my favorite series of all time. It is potentially one of the greatest works out there of manga and deserves to be recognized as a near masterpiece, with potentially some of the finest characters in fiction. Of course, I'm talking about Fist of the North Star and its Ultimate Edition. Let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen.
Soの子を離せ。
てめえか、俺の仲間をやったのは。
北斗百裂拳。
なんだ、てめえの剣など顔ども聞かんわ。ぶっ殺してやら。
お前はもう死んでいる。
So then, yes, this is North Star. It's my favorite series of all time. It is my favorite thing of all time. I consider it wildly potentially the greatest manga, greatest book, greatest anime, greatest movie trilogy, greatest TV show, greatest everything, greatest characters, greatest story for the first half, and just overall brilliant, just brilliant on every level. I have a deep love for this series because it has some of my favorite characters of all time, and I just I adore every facet of it. Even when the series starts kind of you know teetering off on the rails a bit towards the second half, I still loved it somewhat, even with some of the writing. So, what is Fist of the North Star about? Well, quite simply put, in the year 1990X, nuclear war ravaged the world and left behind a wasteland. Violence rules. It is an age of power, where warlords and clans run rampant, and the people call for one thing: salvation. To be freed from the hell on earth that has purged this land for near generations. And of course, what none other than we start out with than our main hero, Kenshiro, who we do not know the last name of until later, of course, in Fist of the Sky. Now then, let's get this clear. This series is old. It was written way back in the 80s and was a cultural icon within Japan. It revolutionized the shonen industry. It established so many tropes and ideas within the demographic as well as the magazine, with series from Berserk to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure having been influenced by it. And it's clear when you read Fist of the North Star, you will see the influence. Now, I did not get into this series super early on. I didn't get back into it then. I only got into it when I heard about its inspiration on JoJo. And of course, if you don't know, I'm a huge fan of JoJo. I think JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is potentially one of the finer works. Steel Ball Run, one of the greatest works in fiction, right there. And I decided, you know, why not give the ancestor, the father of shonen, you know, its due respects. And then, you know, I read it. And then what I came out with was a series that I did not expect to love nearly as much as I did. I came in expecting, you know, just mindless violence, machismo, you know, just good old fun. I heard some good things about it, and I decided, yeah, you know, it looks cool. I'll give it a read. I was not coming in to expect it to be my favorite thing ever in fiction. The characterization is absolutely amazing. It is, for a series that is weekly and has just run on the fly, it has some of the most well-developed characters I've seen in fiction. The main character, Kenshiro, while he certainly does relatively remain flat in his personality, he is bar none one of the manliest motherfuckers around. And his character arc throughout the entirety of the series is one of the most fascinating and well-developed out there. And his impact on the industry and culture within Japan, and even outside of America, can just not go out understated. He is one of the first examples of breaking the molds of masculinity and ideals of masculinity within Japan, as well as across the world. Kenshiro is a very much, despite his exterior, despite being cold, stoic, he's very emotional. He's not afraid to show off his emotions, to show off who he is as a man. He's willing to cry over things that men aren't typically allowed to be even crying over. And the very idea of the fact that someone he cares about is even alive is enough to drive him to tears. And just, he's such a icon when it comes to male masculinity, what it means to be a man, that you have to be kind, caring, you need to be strong for those you care about. However, it doesn't mean you can't have moments of weakness, and that you just have to accept sometimes that yeah, you fail sometimes, and it's good that you failed, and that means you can get back and become better. You lose the one time, you won't lose the second. That's how it is, and that's one of the reasons I love Kenshiro so much. He's had a major impact on me as a man, and it's not to say he's not the only good character. Well, certainly early on you won't meet the absolute fucking icons of, you know, Rei, Toki, Ryuga, Seihachi, or Shu, or anyone else like that. You certainly won't meet them for quite a long while. That doesn't mean there's no characters besides Kenshiro that aren't fucking great. I would even say the two duos that we have in the beginning, which is of course Lin and Bat, get some really interesting character development as the series goes on. Obviously, I need to talk about my personal favorite as when I get there. That's another thing. Well, certainly Kenshiro is great. The main side characters are amazing. I'll talk about my favorites soon, but just characters like Rei, who won't be appearing until I believe the 3rd volumes of the Ultimate Editions come out, is fucking amazing for the amount of time he's here in the story. He has such a great arc, such a beautifully written just introduction. Lin and Ba are adorable, and they add provide a lot of complexity later on to the story, and also help develop Kenshiro as a man, developing responsibility, developing duty, developing a lot to himself. And similarly, you have the villains. Now, the villains early on aren't the best, and I'm going to be talking about the fact that, yes, these are the first volumes. The first volumes of villains, well, certainly not like, you know, amazingly mind-blowing. One of the villains is, of course, who I have to mention, is none other than Shin, aka the main character of the main villain of the first arc of the series, which is only 10 chapters, which I think will establish whether or not you want to get into the series. Because this is the only arc in the series that's planned. This series was not expected to get as popular as it was. There, let's see if you guys can see that. There he is, Shin. Shin, for the 10 chapters that his arc lasts, is fucking great. He gets a lot of development. He's very complex. He's such an intriguing and fascinating character. And he's just, for the little amount of time he's there, does such a fucking great job of what he does. And he just, he steals your heart. He's really popular in Japan with women. He's really popular with, you know, as well as a character as a whole, for just being such an icon, being such a beautifully written character for so little time. And that's another thing. Early on the series, none of it's planned. It's beyond just the first arc. it's none of that's planned. The first arc of the series is the only part that was planned because it was not expected to be as popular as it was. It's sort of a One Piece kind of thing, you know, and because you know how shonen are. Shonen typically don't last long if they're not popular, so of course they were just expected, you know, let's tell a quick, easy story. And, you know, obviously, we get one of the best series out there. So I'm grateful for that. And it's just, just the first arc alone, I think, will sell you a lot. Because the first arc has a fucking mind-blowing twist that I think will get a lot of people off guard. And it's also the following arcs, which are starting barely. Because this first volume, the first volume of the Ultimate Edition, is, of course, only going to be covering the first 2 arcs of the series so far, and it doesn't cover the second arc until the next volume, which is volume 2, which won't be coming out until September, which covers the double cross, and as well as, you know, Hokuto Shinken. It covers some of the first few portions of the arcs as well, with Kenshiro sort of wandering and getting an idea of an establishing of his character, leading to the King arc, which of course is also fucking great for the, I think technically not even 10 chapters it lasts. It only lasts about technically 9, I believe. 9-ish chapters is what it lasts. And it's a quick introduction, and it's enough to sell. You can read it, that arc, in probably a day, because I did. I read it in not even a day. I read it in about 20 minutes is how much it took me to finish it. And that's because I was taking my time real slow. And of course, Godland, which also does another part of establishing Kenshiro's character. And then of course you'll have the Jackal arc, which doesn't occur until the next volume, which those 2 arcs' purposes are, of course, developing Ken's relationship with the 2 kids he hangs around with, which is, of course, Lin and Bat, and also establishing a sense of responsibility and duty within his character, which, you know, of course, it's giving him purpose. What is Ken's purpose? It's him fighting it. That's what it is early on, and that's already development in the first fucking 4 arcs of the series. That's not even talking about the major part of the series. When Rei gets introduced, further reinforcing. It's further characterizing Kenshiro and him developing relationships and bonds. When we get introduced to the coolest motherfucker in fiction, 2 of them, Toki, who I call Kung Fu Jesus, who we all call Kung Fu Nuclear Jesus, who is one of the finest characters in fiction, right there as well, and Rao, the King of Fists, Keno. His introduction alone was enough to cement it. To cement this series as being my all-time favorite. Words cannot put... There are no words. There's no words out there that can put into just how fucking awesome Raw is. So I'm gonna show you a clip that summarizes how fucking cool Raw is. And this is not me exaggerating. Roll the clip.
ラオウケンシロウ継承者を決める日は近い。ラオウに問う北斗神拳は何に使う？知れたことを己のためだ。己の？そして何を目指す？それは天に立ち権力の座に座るということか。この世に生を受けたからには俺は全てをこの手に握る。そんなことは神が許さん。ならば神とも戦うまで。
Introduction. Do you understand? That's his introduction. You haven't even met him yet, and you already have an established idea of what kind of fucking awesome, godlike Chad Raoh is. Raoh is not only my favorite villain. Raoh is not only my favorite character in the series. He is my favorite being in existence. I consider him potentially the peak of fiction when it comes to writing. Now, this certainly might not be for everyone. Someone would consider, you know, oh, fucking Griffith, Johann Liebert, you know, fucking Euron Greyjoy, or basically any character from Fyodor Dostoevsky's work, or Alejandro Jodorowsky, or Charlie Kaufman's works. You know, fucking none of that shit. None of that shit fucking compares to Raoh for me. Even stuff that's almost approaches it is Berserk, Goblin Slayer, JoJo with Ringo Road again, and Funny Valentine, and Johnny Joestar and Gyro Sapelli. Those guys are the closest for me when it comes to good characters. I would even dare say that not even American Psycho, which I consider potentially one of the best character studies and examples of villains out there, and even, you know, the Clockwork Orange novel, I'm not too fond of the movie, even the novel, I would say, probably doesn't compare to the levels of just how fucking godly Raoul is. He is a character that, I kid you not, was modeled to be the epitome of masculinity and manliness. That was the intention of his character, and oh my fucking god, does he embody it. He is the perfect man, to the extent that I actually did fall in love with him. I legitimately did, you know, sort of go through a phase of just being in love with every character in North Star. Even just everything about Raoul, even just everything about him is just amazing. He never stopped adding layers and complexity to him, and it just doesn't stop. His character, it just is developed upon and just doesn't get stopped being developed upon. He's fantastic in every single way. I consider him the perfect character in fiction, and there is nothing in anime and manga and movies or television that will dethrone him. The fact that Kenshiro alone is technically even only characters from North Star compared to him. Only really Kenshiro compares to him, and I think that's because Kenshiro is just so fucking well developed and written. It's absolutely flabbergasting. Now, let's talk about another element, the art. This is the art from a couple of years down the line when Hara is current, you know, Tetsuo Hara, as you can see right there, Tetsuo Hara. Later art style. This is his Fist of Blue Sky art style, which is a prequel series to North Star, which covers the world before the nuclear apocalypse. Yes, back in the World War II China. And obviously the art is fucking amazing just from here. That's not even talking about the level of quality that can be found within the Valiant's release. Look at that. Look at that. This is early on. They did not have their style cemented yet, and it looks fucking amazing and beautiful and gorgeous, just wonderful. The art just gets better. You think it's good early on, it doesn't stop getting better. It keeps on developing and keeps just growing and evolving and just, oh, it's so fucking great. Just even in the first volume alone, look at that. Look at that Kenshiro. Tall, lengthy motherfucker with, looks good that early on. And I think there are some revisions that are done in this edition, but I'm not quite sure. Because I know it was stated by, of course, the author that these are the Ultimate Editions. Now, if you don't know what the Ultimate Editions are, these are basically the Jojoniums for Fist of the North Star. If you don't know what the Jojoniums are, those were the special editions that have the colored pages from the original Shonen Jump printing, as well as an interview with the author. This doesn't have an interview with Boro-san and Hara-sensei in it. They have, that's only done in later volumes when they talk about the character designs of what they thought of when they were making them. This is the interview for this one is done by the chief editor at the time, who was working with them, and it really does provide an interesting note strip in my eyes. If I had to say anything so far with the art is, yeah, it can look a bit simple here, but still just, it's not as detailed and shading wise as it was later on, but fuck is it beautiful. Now let's talk about something I think I'm interesting. This was made for kids, yes. Despite the fact Kenshiro is a full-grown adult, this was made for kids, and you wouldn't really think about that. Japan, compared to the States, has, of course, you know, different values to us. They don't necessarily view children in the same way as do sometimes. Obviously, there's a difference between what you can do in a seinen and what you can do in a manga. Miss North Star is bleak. It's actually surprisingly fucking bleak. There's a lot of things about death, nihilism, the nature of God, what it means to be human, and you know, rape. There is rape in this. There is murder. Children die and are horribly traumatized. I kid you not, this scene, yeah, that happens. It's to establish how shitty things can go. And the reason for this is probably because the inspiration for this series is by Mad Max, and Mad Max is also pretty fucking bleak. But North Star can get really fucking dark, and really surprisingly dark. It doesn't really let up on how dark or bleak Yes, I would actually go as far as to say it borders on grimdark sometimes, but not too much. There's still hope. It's pretty much what I'd say would be a dark shonen. You thought fucking Chimera Arc was dark. No, it's not. There's even some grim humor in this, some First Law type of humor where it's just like Kenshiro. I think I should mention this. Kenshiro has the ability to make people fucking explode. If he touches one of your pressure points, if you don't know, you have about 250-ish, 240, or even to 1,000 sometimes, depending. I think in this context, there's actually 1,000 pressure points in the series. If Kenshiro presses one of those pressure points with his martial art, Hokoto Shinken, which is known as the Divine Fist of the North Star, which in Japanese and Chinese mythology specifically, basically was the god of death within ancient Chinese mythology, and especially within the story. And of course, with that, Kenshiro, when he touches your pressure point, can make you explode. He can make your spine explode. He can make your skeleton pop out of your body. He can make your arms have nothing. And he can make your head literally crack open. Kenshiro's fucking broken. Now, that doesn't mean he stays overpowered throughout the whole series. He certainly is fucking strong. One of the abilities with Hokoto Shinken is that you have your full potential unlocked. You have all 100% of the human body strength. You have none of your limiters on. And certainly with Kenshiro, he doesn't stay overpowered the whole way. His journey starts with a loss, obviously. And he does meet his match quite a bit. It comes into a lot that Kenshiro loses, and that's to a devastating effect. It's never like, oh, I lost, I gotta get back up. No, it's I lost, and I'm not gonna fucking get up. That's how fucking bad it gets sometimes. Kenshiro goes through depression quite a bit later on to the series, but I hope they include that in limited editions, because those were dark chapters with Kenshiro basically trying to kill himself. But that's not explaining much. Now, I think I need to stress, I've been praising this series completely. I've been giving it absolute praise. What are the weaknesses? What will make you not like it? The story is great for the first half. It certainly is a bit slow in the first chapters, and you don't really see what I see. You don't see the absolute magnificent build-up, foreshadowing, or character development potentially, and it's a bit slow to get into what is considered the height of fiction, that is Ro. But once the first half is done, and you'll know when the first half mark happens, the series dips. Again, none of the story was planned after the Shin arc, and there are some, 1 or 2-ish plot holes that appear early on that are resolved within later iterations. However, with North Star, the second half makes no fucking sense, and there is no sense of headcanon that will make it make sense. It is built on a bullshit plot hole that fucking ruins a lot of the story and makes a lot of characters look either like assholes or make their decision making look fucking completely ridiculous. Or I would dare say it kind of assassinates some characters. Would I say it's to the extent of insulting as other pieces of fiction that do this? No. The characters remain preserved. There actually is a lot of good character writing later on. Kenshiro gets a lot of great and fantastically well done character development. There are great characters like Han, Sahachi, Akasachi, Falco, and Ain. Ain is fucking cool. Ain is American pure, man. And that part of the story is great. Those characters are great. It's when we get to a certain arc known as the Land of Asura that the series starts to go off the fucking rails. And even when that arc ends, there's another plot hole that opens up that just doesn't make any fucking sense. And the fact that it's never been mentioned or foreshadowed is fucking ridiculous. The movie trilogy actually does attempt to fix that by establishing how that character was born and made, but those movies aren't too good, and they cut a lot out, so they're pretty much fucking non-canon to the original manga. So I accept that the character exists. She's great. The movies don't fix the manga too much. The manga's issues there. Let's address another thing. This series is manly. This series is very masculine, very much just unbelievable manliness. This is going to be an issue, I know that for a fact. The character of Rei is one of the best. He's one of the best characters in the show. He's kind of sexist. And I don't mean that in like, this series is sexist. No, there's a lot of strong women in Fist of the North Star and in Fist of the Blue Sky. is one of the main characters. Like, just so many strong women in this series that are strong not only physically, but are strong in heart and spirit, that are enough to sway the wills of men, to make them change and differ. That is how strong the women in North Star are. Ray himself does not view women as Kenshiro does. Kenshiro views women in a very progressive and egalitarian way. He doesn't do anything against them that would be considered sexist. He very much thinks women are, you know, equal to men. He does believe that. Ray thinks women are weak, that they're useless as fighters, and that they serve no purpose in his introduction. Ray in his introduction is an asshole. He's a borderline rapey asshole, and he's a dick. However, his character arc is essentially growing out of this phase, and he does come to understand women. Sadly though, because the women aren't as strong as Kenshiro is, because no one's as fucking strong as Kenshiro except a few characters, there is of course some issues with the fact that women don't really fight physically, with the exception of what happens later on in the second half. However, again, the women in this series are strong emotionally and in spirit, probably even emotionally and stronger than the men sometimes, and that's where they shine greater. Of course, some of them in the prequel series, Fist of the Blue Sky, are like that. Fist of the Blue Sky women are strong physically. They do a lot of shit that's just like, wow, what the fuck. I kid you not, there is a woman in Fist of the Blue Sky that actually does match some of the men in power, and dare say surpass them at times. When you don't really have that in North Star, you certainly just have them being strong in spirit. So just understand, this series is not sexist. Fist of North Star is not a sexist series. It doesn't have any sexism or any values that you want to view necessarily as progressive. This is honestly one of the most progressive works out there when it comes to both not only gender, but as well as male masculinity. And that's one of the reasons I love it. However, let's discuss that thing I brought up, the prequel series. They both are pretty fucking awful when it comes to lore. I shouldn't say that. They fuck up a lot in the main. They fuck up a lot of shit. There's a lot of retcons in the fucking first chapter alone that lead to a lot of issues for North Star later on. And the main character, Kenshiro Kasumi, who is, of course, apparently the great ancestor Kenshiro. We don't really know what the thing is with that. That opens up issues of, like, how the fuck does that work? Are they just related or not? You know, that whole fucking thing gets all screwy. Kenshiro Kasumi is a Gary Stu. He's the perfect everything. He never loses, unlike, you know, his great later descendants. He doesn't fail, he doesn't lose. He's pretty fucking annoying with how confident and smug he is. He's never proven wrong. Everything he does is correct. Women love him. Everyone wants him. Everyone wants to be with him. Everyone wants to love him. Everyone respects him and likes him. He's such a clear Gary Stu. He's a good character, but he just gets too much compared to Kenshiro. And it's just disappointing after coming off of Kenshiro's own character arc and tragedy. Kasumi just feels lacking. He's not the best Kenshiro, and he's not nearly as good as Ken was. Fist of the Blue Sky also has an issue with how its characters are handled. They're not done as well as North Star, nor are they as memorable. There's a lot of character decisions that honestly don't make any sense. There's a lot of iffy writing. They've retconned and ruined a lot with a lot of the consistency with the other series. However, that's beat out by, honestly, some standouts. There are some standout characters in North Star in Fist of the Blue Sky, like Yasuka. Yasuka is fucking great. I kid you not, I literally changed how I look just to fucking look like him because I'm that much in love with him. He's tied with Raul as my favorite character in the series. He's a great character, and I hope to God against God that the redemption arc that they have going on with him is done well, because Jesus fucking Christ, Blue Sky has some awful redemption arcs. I'm not joking. North Star, no one really gets a redemption arc. They get, you know, they get punishment. People in Blue Sky get redeemed too fucking easily. I kid you not, a man literally kills another dude's sister with a bomb in cold blood because he could, and acts like a raging fucking lunatic about it, and even threatens to rape Kenshiro Kasumi's girlfriend. And he just gets off super easily, and he just does like a fucking, not even a 180, he does a fucking 720 levels of fucking just like, whoa, that's a weird character turn. It's not done well. And that's pretty much an issue. A lot of the first half of Fist of Blue Sky is fucking boring. And Fist of Blue Sky Regenesis is a bit better, but Fist of Blue Sky itself has just so many problems on a writing level. It adds a lot of cool lore to the series. It adds a lot of cool elements to the nature of the plot, the fighting, and how this hierarchy works. It just is. It just bores on fucking stupid at times. It's nowhere near as good as North Star is. The characters are great when they're written well and actually on screen, but you know, that's just, you know, one of the problems with that series. It has too many fucking problems compared to how North Star is. Now, should you read Fist of North Star? Yes, you should. You should definitely read Fist of the North Star. It is bar none one of the greatest things ever written, and it is it's my personal favorite thing ever. It's flawed. I don't think it's necessarily a perfect work, objectively speaking. It has a lot of flaws, but that first half is fucking amazing, and I love it. It's simple, it's not too complicated, except with some stuff with the factions, but even then it's not hard to wrap your head around. And it's just such a wonderful series with some of the finest character development ever written. And this is just the first volume alone. If that doesn't sell you, I highly recommend you wait until Raoul comes around. So I recommend at least getting the first 4 volumes. That will take some time. However, just if the first volume doesn't do it for you, wait until Raoul comes around, or watch some of the Raoul clips and tell me you can't fall in love with him. So basically, yeah, read this fucking series. I need more people to get into it so it doesn't fucking happen again where it doesn't get finished its run before it gets canceled. It is one of the greatest pieces of works out there. It inspired so many great series like Berserk and Kinnikuman and fucking Ramen Man, and as well as fucking, you know, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which, you know, everyone fucking loves that series. I love it too. Read the Fist of North Star. Read the Granddaddy Shonen and see why it is such a cultural icon, and support it. Support the official release. Don't read the scans. Don't read the scans. You know, definitely don't read the scans. You know, it's definitely not like it's gonna take months or anything to, you know, to get these out. But definitely support the official release. These fucking Ultimate Editions have interviews with the author that you won't get with the scanlations. And as well, the art is great. Translation's a bit weird at times. It's a bit too choppy at times with the official translations, but it's still great. Give it to North Star, guys. Go. I can't even speak. I'm so excited. Give it a go, guys. It's my personal favorite series. Definitely read it. I hope you all enjoy it. I hope you love it as much as I do. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.